Hawaii Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard is a woman of first. She's the youngest woman in Congress. She's also the first member born in American Samoa, the first Hindu, and one of the first two female combat veterans. Congresswoman, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Aloha. Good morning.
Aloha.
Aloha,
Aloha.
yes.
Yes.
Carry it with you wherever you go.
Yes.
That's the key.
You are new to Congress, and you have recently expressed frustration that sometimes you're sitting there debating issues that you say are idiotic. How frustrating is it?
I think the frustration that I have felt even being 6 months as a member of Congress, that other colleagues of mine feel, is reflective of the frustration that we hear every single time we go back home to our districts from people who are saying, look, we just want you to get something done for us. We don't care about the blame game and the partisan rhetoric that goes back and forth.
Well, you heard Speaker Boehner tell Bob Schieffer, well, there are too many laws. We're in the business of repealing them.
That's irrelevant to people at home. When you're talking about passing laws and repealing laws, they're saying, look, how are you improving our education? How are you reducing the deficit and empowering our small business owners to create more jobs in our local economies? And I think that's where, as frustrating as it is, it's important that we stay focused on where's the opportunity. And that's where I think not only on the Democratic caucus, but also in the Republican caucus, there are a growing number of people who are saying we're not here to obstruct. We're here to get something done, and let's work together to make that happen.
So you think they'll be able to change gridlock?
I do. I think that's really the only place that it can happen, is where you come in and have true, sincere, respectful conversations and saying, look, we are here to serve the people. We're Americans first.
But there's one thing you care about, which is sexual assault in the military. You have a chance to have an impact there. Absolutely.
I mean, this is an issue that is a travesty and is really undermining our national security when you look at it. It's an issue that has really resulted in bipartisan outrage, and where there's opportunity to really come up with a common sense solution to be able to have a transparent process to provide justice to these victims and to be able to get these criminals out.
I think many people may not know that you volunteered, you joined the military, you served 2 combat tours, and so you know this issue. Did you personally witness sexual assault?
I did not personally. I mean, while I was deployed into Iraq, as well as in Kuwait, there were incidences that were occurring. Our commanders gave us briefings about this happening, but up until really recently, I don't think any of us really understood the depth and breadth of how bad this really is and how we need to take action now.
How did combat change you?
It changed my life in so many different ways. My own personal perspective, who I am as a person, of realizing what's important, what's not, as well as from a political sense and how we're dealing with national policies, the true cost of war, not just being the dollars and cents, the lives that are sacrificed, but also the long-term impacts.
And on that note, you had been married to your childhood sweetheart. Your marriage fell apart as a result of serving overseas. There's a new story in the Washington Post today, a new report that found that children are some of the hardest hit after war, what they're suffering with parents gone. Now they have more parents than ever who are serving overseas.
Absolutely. And the fact that we have less than 1% of our entire country's population who volunteer to wear the uniform, the impacts are not as often talked about. And the impacts that these children are feeling and that these families are feeling aren't really brought into the conversation of what the cost of war is.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think this disconnect continues, not just on military issues, but also, as you're pointing out, in Congress, why there's such a disconnect between lawmakers and the people they represent?
I think, unfortunately, it has largely come about because of the focus on the bickering that happens back and forth, and less listening of actually what's happening, less listening to these troops who are coming home, the veterans who are waiting for years to have their claims resolved, and understanding that when you bring troops home, that doesn't end there. Our commitment and our responsibility to them as a country must continue, and that takes listening and then taking action.
When you look at what's happening with respect to the budget, does it concern you what might be done within the military realm, as Secretary of Defense has been citing?
It does, and I've been very outspoken against the sequestration cuts, largely because they've been arbitrary. Rather than saying, yes, we need to cut back, every agency, every department, I think, has understood we need to cut back, but giving the onus to them to say, these are the areas where we can trim the fat and where it makes sense, and these are the areas that are operating well and are already a lean, mean machine.
All right.
Congresswoman, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aloha.